Hi everyone, welcome to day 22 of the 26 Days to Greatness Challenge. We have V for being victorious today with Dr. Lise Janelle. Dr. Lise is a human potential expert and an elite mindset coach who's been transforming lives since 1989. And she teaches how to let go of our self-sabotaging beliefs so that we can live connected to our heart and to have true success. So with that being said, I am super excited to have you, Dr. Lise, and thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with people what this can do for them.
Yeah, this is like so exciting because Dr. Lisa, for my own personal journey now, like I am really tapping into like the connection to my heart, and I'm just seeing how powerful that can be. And before we get into like the good stuff, why don't you share with us a little bit more about you, who Dr. Lisa is, how did you get to doing the work that you do today?
Well, my background is I was a holistic chiropractor, and I could have 10 patients with very similar low back condition. Let's say 8 of them would get better, and 2 of them would be it would be so hard. So then I started to explore different mind-body method, and I was able to help almost all the time those 2 out of 10, because
Yeah.
what was happening is there was emotion that were stuck in their physiology. And
Uh-huh.
it's amazing when you let go of the Pavlovian condition response that's stuck in the physiology,
Mhm.
physical symptoms clear out. And then I attended an amazing seminar one day where I had the deepest spiritual experience of my life. It's like so amazing that I decided that I wanted to give this experience to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And it's basically the power of gratitude. So that was in 1989. I ended up learning mind body method called NET, and then I studied with
Mhm.
Dr. John DeMartini, and I ended up over the years combining those 2 tools where I created a method called the Heart Freedom Method. And I've done mind body work with thousands of people, and they say 10,000 hours to have mastery over something. I don't know
Mhm.
how many thousands of hours I've had, probably 20. And the more I do this work, the more I see the power, because as human beings, you can either live through your mind,
Mhm.
through your emotions, or through your
Mhm.
heart. Your mind, your emotions, or your heart. And you are only going to experience happiness in the heart. You won't experience it in the head or in your gut. The true happiness, true fulfillment comes only from being in the heart.
This is so good. You know, Dr. Lise, this is funny because I did a Facebook Live right before this, earlier this morning, talking about similar concept, really like how a lot of our problems that we perceive as problems in our lives really just exist in our minds right now. But when we can drop into our heart, that's when everything kind of just melts away. But I noticed that you mentioned we can either live in our mind or emotions or living from the heart. So what is the difference between living from the heart versus like our emotions?
All right. So that's a very good question. Very smart question. So, in the heart, from where I come from, what works when I've been able to help thousands of people is when I help them understand that in the heart, the only thing that lives in the heart is love,
Mhm.
gratitude, inspiration, and wisdom. Love, gratitude, inspiration, and wisdom. So for me, love is not an emotion. Love is our essence. So the key, the game we're all playing is to learn to reconnect with the essence. Like right now, often I do the heart freedom meditation, I call it. And I guide the people. And like right now, we are, with this confinement and all these things and all the turmoil that's happening, through getting someone connected in the heart, even though nothing changes on the outside, a
Yeah.
person can experience peace, abundance, feeling of gratitude. So we have a choice at every moment of our day to choose to go into our emotions that disconnects us from the heart,
Mhm.
or come back, see the big picture so we can be connected back in the heart.
Oh, this is so good. Okay, so basically our essence, that like pretty much what we are at the core of our essence is like the love, the gratitude, the inspiration and wisdom. That is very different from emotions, like happiness or anger or frustration. So that's a totally different entities.
Wait for me. I'm going to get a prop for you. Okay? I'll be
Okay,
right back.
yes. And while we wait for Dr. Lise, I hope our listeners make sure you guys are getting out your journal. I am taking a bunch of notes already. This is good stuff. So, experience peace.
All right.
Ooh.
Sorry. Okay. My famous yin and yang. I'm going to have it on my tombstone when I pass for sure. Because it's a very good visual to explain the difference between love. Because when you love someone, you see their good side and their bad sides. If you're a parent, you see your kids. Sometimes they drive you crazy, but sometimes they make your heart melt. If you don't have kids, you know, your lover, your parents, your siblings, when you love someone with all your heart, you're able to embrace both sides. And we experience emotions when we see either more pleasure than pain or more pain than pleasure.
Okay.
So the key to going back in the heart is to be able to embrace both sides.
Wow. I love that visual.
So
Oh
that's
my
why
God.
I took the time to do it, because it's such a really good visual. And because, you know, I'm a human being, I end up feeling my emotions too. But that visual brings me back into my mind using wise concept that then I can drop into my heart. And I tell a corny story, but it's the perfect corny story. The scientist is observing a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. It's a huge struggle. It takes hours and hours and hours. So to be nice to the butterfly, it cuts the cocoon open. But by doing that, the butterfly has nothing to struggle against. So the wings are weak, it can never fly, and it dies like that.
Yeah.
So the key for us to be happy is, no matter what the challenges happening in our lives, to be able to find the benefits to it.
It's like it's encompassing the wholeness,
And
including
you cannot escape this. Like, even before this, I've asked thousands of people, because I speak and, you know, in front of large groups, and I say, raise your hand if you never experience huge challenges. And guess what?
nobody.
Only once. And it was a very young girl, and she says, me, but I know that if it ever happens, I'm going to be in trouble. So the key, if you're smart as a human being, the key as a human being is not to only get pleasure without pain, because it won't happen. The key is to learn to use both sides to your advantage. Because it's also just as dangerous to get caught in something we are infatuated with that takes us away from our heart. Like, that's such a hard principle for most people to understand, because then you feel these intense feeling, you think, oh my goodness, this is love for sure, it feels so good. But as high as you go in infatuation, as low as you go into depression. So it's super important to remember that this is always present, always, in every moment. So getting stuck in infatuation will get you away from your heart, but then feeling sorry for yourself will also keep you away. So if you're smart, you ask yourself, how is this helping me, and how is this helping me? So now you can navigate life from a place of power, from a place of courage and victorious over your life.
Oh, that sent chills down my spine, because my soul just in so much resonance with what you just show, and that shows up in pretty much everything, in nature, in what's going on right now, and myself. Like, I know for the longest time when I went into my personal development journey, you know how there's this culture of like, think positively, stay happy, and I mean that's important, but I got caught in that train. And then
And that doesn't work.
didn't work. No, not at all. And what started to really transform myself was when I was fully compassionately being able to accept and embrace the darkness, the shadow stuff that was in me. And that's when I can really get to next level of true love, acceptance for myself. And then I know that until I was able to do that for me, I wasn't able to do that for anyone else around me. So oh, I wish I learned this concept much sooner, but hey, we need to go through that in order to get those wisdom. But okay, so my question for you, Dr. Lise, is why is it so important for us to consistently be living in a place where we're connected to our heart? Why is that important?
Well, I believe that's the only way you're going to be happy. And you have a choice, you know, you can decide. And it's a choice. It's a conscious choice we make every day, that to be driven out of our fears and emotions, or to be driven out of the heart. And I wrote a book called Conversation with the Heart. And in it, I created a map. And my map really works well to explain. So basically, there are two possible stages to human development. The first one is the unconscious, asleep, infantile stage. The other one is the conscious, awakened, mature stage. Everybody makes it through stage one, and some of us make it to stage two. And in stage one, what happens is that this is super important. If you get this, listener, right now, this is really good.
Dr. Lise, what was the first stage again, if you don't mind?
Stage one is the unconscious, asleep, infantile.
Okay.
The other one is the conscious, awakened, mature.
Okay.
So in the first stage, what happens is, and this is, I'm on a mission to help people. I call that waking up from stage one to stage two, because the power is in stage two. That in stage one, what happens is right from the get-go, when we are born, love has to come from the outside. If you don't get love from the outside, you die. And it's kind of like the divine trick played on us that we have to wake up from. Because our essence is love, but we forget it. Because now we get so focused on the outside to take care of us. And what happens is, and I've done this with thousands of people, and I've made lots of old, grown men cry with this one. It's like, as a little baby, when you're born, often we were taken away from mom, and you could cry and cry and cry and cry, and nobody came. And now you start creating stories about your worth. What's wrong with me? If I was worthy, someone would be coming right now. Worse, it hurts too much when I ask for something and I don't get a response. I'm going to stop asking for what I want. And then we grow up, and then mom has the audacity to have another sibling. What's wrong with me? I'm not enough. Mommy is cranky. When I want her attention, she wants to give it to the baby instead of me. When people come to visit, everybody says how cute the baby is instead of me. I actually had a woman who was really beautiful, and she thought she was ugly because when her sister was born, that's what happened to her. Just letting go of that, subconscious belief, she was able to find the guy that she's still with. So we go to school, and then we have a best friend, and then one day our best friend has a new friend because they got a better toy than us. And then now we get devastated. What's wrong with me? Now we might start associating pleasure to having lots of things. If I have lots of things, then people will love me. So we constantly driven from looking to the outside. And then you're 16, 17, you get your first crush, and we don't have that word in French, but in English you get your crush, and guess what happened? You get crushed because you're just so infatuated at 17 that it always the other side ends up happening. So, and then, we just go through life like this, constantly trying to get a sense of worth from the way the world reacts to us. So that's one of the patterns that we have. The second pattern in the unconscious phase is our ego. And we are either going to try to be better than our parents or sibling or friends, I'm going to punish them. I'm going to show them how it should be done. Or we infatuate so much with the people around us that we want to be like them. So we're either trying to be or not to be like someone instead of being busy being ourselves. And the third mechanism in the unconscious phase of life is conditioned response. And scientists believe that 90 to 95% of what we do is actually pre-programmed, comes from these different experiences. So in stage one, what happens is we run away from pain towards pleasure. We're constantly trying to make up for it. But that is the beauty of this divine design, is that if you really remember who you are, when I connect people with their heart and they feel inner peace, gratitude, they feel nothing is missing. Like the Buddhist principle of having, no desire, I think comes from, if you're fully connected in the heart, you don't feel anything is missing. Could you imagine billions of little Buddhas on planet Earth without no desire? Nothing would happen. So to be able to function on planet Earth, we have to forget that essence of who we are. But that usually ends up happening. And if you're lucky, this is what's going to happen. You're either going to lose your job, or lose your marriage, or lose your money, or face a financial crisis, or you're just going to be dissatisfied, feeling like, oh my goodness, like living life the way I've been living it doesn't feel good. So now the pain is going to drive you to look for a solution. Or if you're lucky, you'll be listening to a summit like you're doing right now, and you're going to get inspired. I highly recommend inspiration. I call that the baseball bat. Do not wait the baseball bat to wake up.
Do not wait for the baseball bat to wake up. I like that.
So what ends up happening is when you start waking up from phase one, you go into phase two. And this is when you start doing your inner work. You and I spoke a little bit about that before. Like doing your inner work is usually, it's the journey that happens when you start to wake up. And using my famous yin and yang again, this is my formula for success. I've traveled the world and studied with the top transformational leaders. I'm actually very lucky. I'm part of the Transformational Leadership Council, and I have access to amazing beings around me as my friends. And I can tell you, in a nutshell, this is a formula for success. If you do this, like every truth is very simple. So this is the truth. To be successful in life, you need the yin, which is listening to your heart, and the yang, which is acting on your heart. Your heart wants you to know two things. First, your heart wants you to know that you're worthy of love. And the second one, it wants you to admit your dreams and aspiration. And then it wants you to get into action to give that to your heart. It's very easy, but so challenging, because you need to do the work. If you do the work, I'm part of the TLC, the Transformational Leadership Council, is basically the movie The Secret. That's where it came from. So it was my great pleasure to stand on stage and teach the people from The Secret the true law of attraction. And the true law of attraction is the following. Challenge yourself to follow your heart, experience happiness. Stay in your comfort zone, experience challenges.
We say that again.
That's a good one, huh?
Yeah.
I use this all the time for different things, but it represents the duality that's present in every moment. So if you challenge yourself, you're going to attract good things in your life. You're going to feel happy and fulfilled. But if you stay in your comfort zone, you're going to attract tragedy and drama.
That was so good. So challenge ourselves by saying yes when it's scary, and that will attract the good stuff to come in. But if we stay in the comfort zone, then we will attract challenges.
Yeah, we're going to be miserable. And I was talking to someone earlier today. As a chiropractor, I had two types of patients. The ones who only came to see me when they were in pain, and the one who wanted wellness. So the one who wanted wellness, they had more discipline. They were coming to see me regularly. They would eat better. They would sleep better. They would meditate. And those people were a lot healthier. The people who only came to see me in crisis, So you can see it's the same thing. In your life, you can decide, all right now, what's happening is horrible. I can't sleep. I'm going to do my inner work. Or because you've been doing your inner work for a long time, it's easier to navigate these challenges right now.
Yeah.
So we have a choice, a constant choice. Am I going to live in stage one by where I'm only driven to run away from pain towards pleasure? Or am I going to be driven from stage two from my heart?
Driven to run away from pain to pleasure. That's stage one.
Mm-hmm.
And then stage two is to feel called to always connect to your heart consistently. So I want to dive deeper into this concept of connecting to our heart. I think like to a lot of people, unless we truly like experience what that means to be connected to our heart, it's kind of hard to like wrap our minds around this concept. So what are some tangible steps that people can practice starting today to live more connected to our hearts right now?
Well, one thing you can do every day is strive to find gratitude. Because remember, I said the four things that live in the heart: love, gratitude, inspiration, and wisdom. Of all four, the easier concept to grasp is gratitude. So, in the midst of every situation, if you're experiencing pain, one of the reasons we experience pain is because the baby part of us, because that's what happens when we were kids. You know, when you grow up, if you're a bad boy or a bad girl, you're being sent to your room, you can't eat dessert or whatever they did, and you feel like, I was bad. And we still have in the back of our mind that story that if a challenge is happening to me, I must be bad. No, 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 no. It's not because something is wrong with you that you're having a challenge. It's because through that challenge, if you decide to be victorious, if you decide to use it to your advantage, you're going to find an equal and opposite blessing. So finding the benefits in any challenge will. I love gratitude because it instantaneously increases your self-worth. It's the key to increase your confidence and your self-worth. And when you increase your self-worth, what happens is that self-worth starts to be reflected back to you in career, in finances, in relationship, in your health, in the quality of the friends that you have. So that's the game we are all on. We are all on the game of waking up from stage one and becoming our best friend, where we're so connected with our heart. And something I highly recommend is to have a statement of purpose for your life. In my book, Conversation with the Heart, I teach how to do this. But basically, each and every one of us, we have things that when we do them, we feel fulfilled. And if you know exactly what you want to do in your life and you organize your time around what matters most to your heart, you're going to be happy. I can make you a prophecy and I don't need a crystal ball. I can tell you where you're going to be 20 years from now, and it's going to be how you've used your time.
Yeah. Oh,
If you,
Dr. Lise. Go
if you
ahead.
speak to me and while you're speaking to me, I'm looking around, I'm not paying attention to you, how would you feel?
This is, one of my highest values is presence, full presence. So I would feel like you're not here, you're not,
And what would happen if we were in a long-term relationship? You probably start to feel depressed, like feeling like I don't care about you. And you'd probably be right.
Yeah.
So, but let's say that while we speak, you tell me you like Thai food, and next time we get together, I make a reservation at the Thai restaurant.
Oh.
You would go, you feel a little velour. You would say, not only did she listen to me, but she did something. So inside your heart is talking to you all the time. And if you're not listening, you're going to feel depressed. And if you're not doing things to give your heart what it wants, you're going to feel even more depressed. And I find in our society, we really need to wake up. That's the reason I call this the infantile stage and the mature stage, because we get stuck. When you're a baby, we always look to mommy or daddy or whoever is our prime giver. And it's like, we're looking to them to make us happy. But, past 18 years old, it should be nobody else's business, but our own business to start paying attention to our own needs.
Yeah.
And give to ourselves what we want. And I'm going to use a strong word because we cannot be hypocrites. and expect the world to be all aligned for us and to give us everything if we're not even willing to pay attention to our own heart and do the work to give to our heart what it wants.
That was so good. I hope the listeners catch that. So we cannot be hypocrites and expect that every conditions outside of us is going to be in alignment, make us feel good if we don't tend to our own needs first.
Exactly. If we're not doing our work, how can we expect our mate, our parents, our family, our friends, our boss, our colleagues to give us the things we want? Just like a little baby looking, pick me, come and console me. We're waiting for that. Like past 18, it's not nobody's job anymore. Even before that, we still, if you're a good parent, you need to train your kids to find their inner drive, to be connected in their hearts. So by taking the time to listen to your heart and organizing your time according to what the heart wants, that's how you're going to be successful and happy. So the easiest way I find to make a crack is to find gratitude in everything. So when you start being grateful, you open the heart. And when you open the heart, you start having more love for yourself. And then you can have more love for others. And when you're connected to your heart, then you can have inspiration. If you look at the word inspiration, in means with, ation is a condition. So a condition of being with spirit, inspiration. So that only happens when you're connected in your heart. You won't be inspired if you're angry, depressed, upset. So, these are all the steps you can take. So, and when you do this, you experience wisdom. And when you have wisdom, you don't let the external factors, get you in trouble. So gratitude is the key for opening the heart, I find. So that's one. The other one that I can highly recommend in the midst of every situation, ask yourself, is doing this going to be good for my heart? Yes or no? And there's a difference between your heart and your emotion, and that's mastery level. Because, there's a whole chocolate cake. Your emotions might want a whole chocolate cake, but is that going to be really good for you? No. So, and at the same time, like you said, sometimes it's scary. Like you're organizing this summit right now. It's like, this is a lot of work, reaching out for people, organizing these things. I'm sure that was a bit out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But because you did that, you're experiencing fulfillment. So is it good for me to do this? Yes or no? No matter how hard it is, if it's good for your heart, you say yes. And no matter how pleasurable it is, you say no sometimes.
So Dr. Lise, how do we know it's a yes for our heart? How does that feel like?
When it's a yes, it's quiet. And it might even make you a little scared. You might even go, oh, if it's too scary, then that's not good. Like, I remember in 1989, I wrote down a mission statement, in my whole, and part of the career part says that I'm going to help heal the hearts of millions of people through maximizing their life potential. And that was a little bit out of my comfort zone. But when I checked inside, it was like, no, it's not a story I told myself. It feels solid inside. It's what my heart is calling me to do. When it's an infatuation, it's like, ooh, it's so intense. You feel it all over. When it's the heart, you will feel it in the body around the heart. When it's infatuation, you're either going to feel it in your throat or your head or your belly down. The heart is quiet and it's solid. It's right there.
It's so funny, Dr. Lisa. I think I can show you on my board over there. I wrote my statement to inspire 1 million lives to reconnect with the divine selves. So it's very similar.
That's how we ended up connecting.
Yeah, and it's scary. Like I have no idea how that's gonna happen, but it feels like it's a feeling that's hard to explain. You explained that really amazingly. But I think it's kind of like in my tummy, like just in my center. It feels right. Something about it feels right.
and you can So when it feels right, you feel the heart. You remember, we can lift our mind, our belly, which is our emotions, or our heart. But when something feels right, you're going to feel all three in alignment. So your belly, your mind, and your heart, they will all be in alignment. You'll feel like there's a conduit that says it's good. And that happened to you before. You told me I get goosebumps from that. And that's often a sign people get goosebumps, like, oh, yeah, like I'm supposed to pay attention to this. Like, this is right.
Oh wow, this is so good. So, okay,
And
so we
what
want to.
we were, sorry, I wanted to talk about it because you, like, you're younger, much younger than me. You probably were at where I was when I was in 1989. Um, so what happens is the same principle of attraction. If you challenge yourself by having a big mission like yours, you're going to attract support that you would never have experienced or expected.
Like
And
you.
the bigger the vision, you have to be willing to hold the vision longer.
Mm,
If
the
it's a
bigger your
if
vision.
it's a little goal that you have, it can
Mhm.
happen in 6 months, in 2 months. But if you want to empower millions of people, you gotta be willing to hold the vision longer. And
Yeah.
that demands that you be in stage 2, because in stage 1 we want instant gratification. In stage
Mhm.
2 we're willing to challenge ourselves for a long time to get what our heart wants. So
So.
that's how I ended up, like I told you, I'm part of the TLC, the Transformational Leadership Council. And
Mhm.
through this, I ended up meeting Jack Canfield. So I've actually written most of the book now, my third book with Jack. And because Jack found my heart freedom method and he loves it so much, he said it's the missing link he had been looking for in 50 years of doing transformational work. That's why he asked me to write a book with him. So Jack has 1 million fans on his Facebook. So like, I had no clue. When I started, I was like you. The only thing I knew is my what and my why. So when you know your what, when you know your why, and you start organizing your time, so you've listened to your heart, it tells you what to do, and then you organize your time and the highest priority actions that you can take to get you there. After that, you just have to trust. You take a step, another step, and all of a sudden it's like, if you look in astronomy and you see a nebula, nebula is nebulous, it's gaseous, and it's like the beginning of having a vision. And the longer you hold the vision, after a while you start to see the solar systems and the planets, and everything starts to gel. So the bigger your vision, the more patience you need. You can have little, goals in between, but a long-term vision, just like hold on to the vision. Don't get discouraged, because it makes the journey so rich. My life has been so rich as a result of this. Like, even if I died tomorrow, I never got to publish my third book, I'm fulfilled, because my life has been so, so rich.
Oh, Dr. Lise, I I feel like I can cry listening to you share that. That was just like it touched my soul, my heart, listening to you share that, and I'm just so inspired. And you connecting with you right now in this interview and having you to bless the audience with your wisdom and your insight, that is a part of the journey of me stepping into that vision. So having, yeah, it's just like I don't remember how I even connected with you. So I do have a question really quickly though. I want to know, so like on the stage 2, the conscious awakened mature state, is this like everlasting continuously expanding stage, or is there an end to that?
Good question. I believe it's a forever expanding state,
Mm,
because we constantly refine, I think it's the path to enlightenment.
mm,
Like, we are all on this path. And what happens is you start on that journey, and sometimes, you're a human being, so you go off track, and then it feels wrong. That's what happens. Once you've connected with the heart, you can fool yourself for a little while, but then you go, oh, it's too, I have to come back. And that's how we learn to navigate, and we can't force it. If you try to force it, it feels wrong. If you're not having fun, if you're feeling like, oh, this is drudgery, you're not in your heart. You're feeling so bad about who you are that you're trying to be all good, and you're going to feel it. Like there's a difference between doing things because you got to do them, which come from low self-esteem, versus I'd love to do them. There's a different frequency in that. It's like, within every quantum, there's 7 frequencies. That's why we have 7 notes. We have 7 colors in a rainbow, because within one quantum, you have 7 frequencies. And so at the bottom of your frequency, you're living life because you got to. And then you can go got to, have to, need to, want to, desire, choose, or love. So once you start living your life because you love it, it gives you energy. It gives you a different frequency that attracts all kinds of amazing things in your life.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true, because I just witnessed this whole shift. Just a couple months ago, I was always procrastinating. I was slipping in. I didn't want to do anything, because everything that I had to do, I felt like I had to do it, or I should do it. But when I really shifted out of that and everything, like, I'm excited to do it. I get to do it. I'm just so blessed and privileged to do the things that I do today. And now I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I work till like 6, and I'm still so fired up, and I'm in spirit. I'm connected to spirit, and it's a whole different feeling, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly that. It gives you
yeah.
vitality. I often use the example. Let's say it's your birthday and your friends take you out for your birthday, but you hate your job. You go out, you party until 3 in the morning. The alarm goes off at 7 to go to work, and you go, "Oh, I'm calling in sick." But let's say instead it's still your birthday. This time you go to bed at 4 o'clock, but at 7 o'clock you have to get up because you're going on a trip you've been looking forward to. We're probably going to find you at the airport. And
Yeah.
what's the difference is like, how, do I love what I'm doing? And life is too short, in my opinion, to do things you don't love. So whatever you're doing right now, either learn to love what you're doing, which means seeing both sides.
Yeah.
Learn to love it, because there's a difference between, again, in English, you have some good expression. This is liking, this is loving. Like a parent doesn't like changing poopy diapers at 3 in the morning. But if you love your kid, you're going to learn to love to do this because you feel safe. You know your kid is going to be okay. So there's a difference between liking and loving. Just like you said, right now you're doing this summit, you get up at 5 in the morning. A lot of people go like, I don't like doing that. But when you are inspired, you don't feel it as much. You don't feel like I like and dislike this, because it's just part of what needs to be done. Just like changing poopy diaper is what you have to do if you have a child, because you're inspired, you love your child, you will do this with like, oh my God, like you're not going to focus only on this, you're going to focus on the big picture.
I love all the stories that you bring into the picture, Dr. Lise. I love the visual. I'm a visual learner, so that was really helpful.
I that was an affirmation I wrote down in 1989, is that my words paint pictures that enlighten the heart.
Oh, I love that. And that's so powerful. Something that you wrote that many years ago, and it's really just like manifesting itself. And all that you do today, I need to start thinking about writing more stuff down. So, Dr. Lise, quick question. When we are connecting, like deepening that connection back into our heart, do we need to release like the years of pain, or like from childhood, any emotional traumas, before we tap into that connection?
Well, you don't have to, but it necessarily really helps, because relatively speaking, and this is part of my work, my heart freedom work, is that relatively speaking, your mind that wants something is the size of a football, and your subconscious mind that's in charge of your survival, the football field. So this is, an engram mechanism that we all have to keep us alive. Otherwise, you wouldn't have human beings on planet Earth. We would all have gotten in trouble. So when our subconscious mind has associated more pain than pleasure, or more danger than safety to something we want, it will sabotage us. For example, I had one client, she's an Olympic level skier, and she came to see me because she had not placed in 2 years. And when I did the work with her, I checked her on I want to win. And so doing the mind body work, we ended up at an initial moment where subconsciously she was not okay with winning. And it was because when she was a little girl around 8 years old, she was better than her brothers. She would win and get medals, and her mom would hide her medals. So she had associated winning with being a source of pain to her siblings. Remember stage one, we have conditioned response as one of the way we were driven. So now as an athlete, subconsciously, her teammates can feel like your siblings, even your competitors, because after a race, you go out together, you have fun together. And so in the back of her mind, if she was winning, she was being a bad person. So I did 2-3 sessions with her. She ended up competing and she ended up on the podium. Unfortunately, it was the last race of the season. But so, and I'm using this one because it's so obvious. Like an Olympic level athlete, like you really want to win. Like your whole life, you abandon everything to win. But if subconsciously there's going to be more pain than pleasure, you know, that fraction of a second can cost you everything. That's why I love working with high level entrepreneurs and athletes and, you know, actors and people who are at high level, because when I tweak things, I can make huge difference in the impact they have on the world.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm super
And
aware.
sorry. So I want to give you 3 clues. There are
Yes.
3 clues you have a subconscious belief working against you. Number 1, you know what needs to be done, but you're not doing it. Famous procrastination.
Okay.
Number 2, you know what needs to be done, you're doing it, but it feels like drudgery. You really have to push hard and use all your willpower, like going to the gym, like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym, but I have to get dressed and I have to get there. And it's like, oh, it's exhausting. And if you could, you would get out of the way from it. But you want to be healthy, you want to have a nice body, you want to be fit, all these things. So you're still doing it, but it uses lots of willpower. Number 3, you do everything right, but you keep getting the opposite result. Like I see that often with promotions at work or finding love. It's such a common one. Right now, I'm writing a 4th book. It's going to be called "Love is Safe. If it's not safe, it's not love." Because most people imagine that love should be the safest thing in the world, but most people have associated pain to being in relationships. So people invite you on a date, you don't want to go, your friend set you up or whoever, and people are so afraid. So these are 3. You're asking me, you know, how often do I do my work? Well, you do your work because you know what you want to do in your life. And then when one of those 3 things happen, you go, oh, I got a subconscious block and I'm going to work through it.
So sounds like pure awareness is like a powerful key step in terms of like letting those blockages to be released, because you know you see that it's showing up, and then you can at that moment consciously decide, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to push through it regardless.
Yeah, and I created the Heart Freedom Method, and the Heart Freedom Method, you can download it from my website, or you can have an experience with me. But I'm certifying people in doing the Heart Freedom Method because it's an amazing tool. And I love when my clients come to see me and they go, you know, Lise, right now, I say I want to do this, but I'm not doing it. So that's why, or I don't know why I work so hard, but it never works out. And they come to see me and we find a story, just like the skier I just told you. Why is it that subconsciously we don't want to have that in our life?
Oh, I'm gonna definitely look into that, and I want to get all your books because I'm in so much resonance with everything that you're saying, Dr. Lise, and that was a good way for us to transition into the next part. So this has been tremendously helpful, and thank you for sharing, really breaking down why connection to our heart is so important, and the 2 stages. What do you call those 2 stages again? The
first one is the unconscious, asleep, and infantile stage where we're driven from the outside world to tell us our worth. And the second stage is the conscious, awakened, mature stage where we are driven from our heart. And it's not selfish. I don't know any loving person that's going to be selfish. So you don't have to be afraid of that. It's like once you start connecting with the heart, you're more loving towards yourself, towards other. Instead of needing people, you can actually love them.
And that was what you described, the 2 stages of developmental stages in all of our lives.
I call that the human spiritual evolutionary process.
Human spiritual evolutionary process.
Yeah, there are 2 possible stages. Everybody gets through stage 1, but not everybody makes it through stage 2. But happiness comes from learning to live in stage 2. Because when you're stuck in stage 1, it's like you're stuck on the spin cycle of the washing machine. All these things keep happening and you can't figure them out. And it's depressing and stressful and makes you angry. And you go on highs and lows. It's out of control. And when you switch to number 2, to stage 2, it's like, because you're not losing so much energy and emotions, you can then use this energy to build an amazing life.
Yeah, I was listening. I'm not sure if you know Kyle Cease, but he's also one of the transformational thought leaders out there. He mentioned how when we are constantly trying to fix something outside of us, just like we're giving away all of our powers. But exactly like you mentioned, when we can just ground it back to connecting within, that's when we have all that abundance of time, resource, and all of us to give out. And that's a different way of living. So, Dr. Lise, in respect of your time, I would love to talk to you all day. There is so much to learn from you, and I'm sure our listeners would love to continue to learn too. So, if where can they stay connected with you on your website, your social media platforms?
Yes, so I have a 2-day retreat called Extreme Freedom. That's going to be May 22nd, 23rd, and I do it via Zoom. It's kind of fun because it's like being in a classroom, but in Zoom. So that would be one powerful way for the listener to connect with me, May 22nd, 23rd. There's, if you want, I have a really good tool and it's free. It's called Best Friend Journal. So bestfriendjournal.com. And it's a 30-day challenge where you learn to become your best friend because you're learning to nurture your inner voice so that you don't let the outside world tell you your worth. You take back your control, your power by you deciding what's going on. So it's a beautiful tool. It really empowers you to remain centered no matter what's happening outside of you.
Oh, this is so awesome. It could definitely go hand in hand with what our listeners are doing right now inside this 26 days challenge. And they can really even do it afterwards to continue to dive deeper into tapping into greatness. So this was amazing, Dr. Lise. And I want to take this time so much to thank you for your generosity, for sharing your gifts and your wisdom with our audience today. Before we end this, do you have any last tips, any last words that you can offer to our listeners?
Yes. No matter what has happened to you, you're worthy of love. And the greatest gift you can give to humanity is to spend the time to listen to your essence and bring that gift into the world.
That was beautiful. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Lise. And I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this as much as I did. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye, Dr. Lise.
Bye.